Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mediocre Takes podcast. Today we're talking about short / pilot, Tome of the Unknown. This is an Over the Garden Wall pilot, so let's just get started.
All right, so Elijah Woods and Greg drive John Crops to the big city in exchange for his car. The city get-together is interrupted after animals attack, but Greg finds a goose and saves the day. They then travel onwards, deeper and deeper into the unknown.
When you said Into the Unknown, I thought of you singing again.
Into the unknown! Into the unknown! Sing with me, into the unknown!
I'm good. I love for you though.
Thank you.
I was totally expecting the vegetable people to die, and I was surprised when they didn't. Okay, to be fair, when I first heard about this show, I thought it was like a horror kids show. So I was expecting it to totally go through the horror route, and when it didn't go that route, I was totally surprised.
What were the vibes you were like? What are the exact vibes you were expecting when you went into like watching the pilot and the show?
Like kind of spooky, light horror.
Light horror. Okay. Did at any point did you ever see or hear or read anything that was like, this is about death?
No.
Okay, interesting.
I love the background art. It's really pretty. The cat really freaked me out. Like, that shit was super weird and made me really uncomfortable. I love the goose Greg finds. Greg kind of got on my nerves a little bit, but he wasn't as annoying as I thought I would find him. Like, he wasn't Victor from Victor and Valentina level bad, though I was annoyed by his random screaming every time. That was a bit much, even for me. I want to know more about the bird character. I feel like I was missing vital information while watching this pilot, and the bird was part of that. I just have questions, and I know we'll get those questions answered when we watch the show, but I was kind of confused. And I like how Wirt asks the vegetable man if he has internal organs, and he's like, well, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually really surprised how close to the show the pilot is. You usually see art and voice actor changes, but I'm pretty sure the two main characters' voice actors don't change. I know that Elijah Woods doesn't. The art didn't change. The vibe and music are the same, which is great. I have zero issues with that. I also appreciate how this pilot wasn't transformed into an episode in the show. I know that we got that with Infinity Train, and I also don't necessarily have an issue with that, especially since this would have fit with the story of the show. I just like how it was sort of its standalone thing, and I like how even though it is still very mysterious, it could have been a standalone thing, especially just like sort of something for Cartoon Network to throw out during the fall season. But that's all I'll say for now, because I have other things to say when we review the show.
Anyways, we'll be back when we start reviewing the show, so see you then. Hello, we're back. We talked about Tome of the Unknown before, and now we're talking about the actual show, Over the Garden Wall. So let's just get started with episode 1. So in episode 1, Greg and Wirt are lost in the woods when they meet the woodsman who warns them about the beast. The beast attacks, and they continue on their journey to find a way home. So there's this one scene in this episode where Wirt was talking and he sounded really pretentious. And here's my thing. I thought this was going to be historical fiction, but it's not. So my question is, why do they talk like that? Why does Wirt specifically talk like that? I don't know. Something about it bothers me.
I can tell you why.
Why?
He also writes poetry.
You have a point. You know what? You really said something with that. Yeah, I was just confused because eventually we do learn that he comes from modern times. Like, why are you talking like that then? I was actually surprised by the fact that I like Greg a lot more than I like Wirt. At first, I don't like child characters who are annoying, right? Like I think it was Victor from Victor and Valentina. We talked about him. He was too much for me. I could not stand him. Same thing with Steven from Steven Universe. I don't really love Steven, like, as a character, because I just find him annoying at times. So I was expecting that with Greg. However, I feel like that was the complete opposite in this show, because Wirt was just so frustrating.
Do you think it has to do with the fact that Greg, it just has like this unstopping positivity and not ignorance, I guess like naivety, because he's a child, that it doesn't feel that annoying?
So here's the thing. I feel like if it were any other character, I would find them annoying. However, I feel like with Greg, something about him just hits different. I don't know what it is exactly. Part of it is the fact that he's so positive. However, I feel like Steven from Steven Universe in the beginning seasons is also like that, but I still find him more annoying. And I think it's because I don't know how to explain this, but Greg just acts differently compared to other child characters in shows. I feel like, and I just had to point that out.
He kind of gives off Steve from Big Top Burger vibes, where like he just sort of does shit.
Yeah, yeah. And even though there are some times where he like does the wrong thing, it's usually not as bad as other child characters from other shows. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah.
The vibrational frequencies permeating from this series is pure concentrated autumn. And the thing is, I love the aesthetic of fall. I hate living in it though, because the reality of it is that it's always wet and soggy, at least where we live. But I think aesthetically it was very beautiful in this. Marco, would you say Greg is a goblin or a gremlin?
See, here's the thing. You talked about the difference between those two, but I've already forgotten. I think if I had to guess, I don't know the difference between the two, but if I had to guess, I would say Gremlin.
Okay. What is that? Okay, the difference between the two is a goblin is always like that, and a gremlin, an event has to happen for them to become like that.
Wait, so Goblin, they're always like that.
Yeah,
So I would say a Goblin, because he's always like that.
you're right, but I hope when he gets older he becomes a gremlin.
Mm.
Because right now, as a kid, I feel like he's very much like he doesn't really think about the future events. He's always like, well, let's do this because this seems nice or this seems good. This seems like the right thing to do. But I do think I like gremlin characters a little bit more just because they seem fine and then something happens and they're like, okay, let me do some nefarious stuff. But yeah, he's definitely a goblin. Okay, Elijah Woods does not love his brother. Elijah Woods is the voice actor for what's his name?
Wirt?
Wart, yeah. Wart. I'm calling him Elijah Woods because he's Elijah Woods. He straight up let that boy go outside after Christopher Lloyd told him there was a monster stalking the woods. He hesitated to go out when he heard monster noises coming from outside where his brother was. And then Christopher Lloyd's like, "Where's your brother?" And he's like, "I don't know. Sir, sir, he wanted his brother to die."
That was so wild. Like, I didn't even notice that. I noticed everything else, but that part specifically, when you spell it out for me, wild. Like, what?
It was just like a series of events of him being like, I really don't care if my brother dies.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can't. The thing is, you can make the defense that he was just in his head. He was all in his head and he wasn't thinking about it. But it's like, I don't think so. I think he wanted his brother to die.
Alright, episode 2. We are introduced to Beatrice, who Greg ends up saving, and together the three of them meet these pumpkin people who actually turn out to be skeletons, and they continue on their journey. So I like how the series has a bit of a darker tone compared to the actual pilot. I feel like I was expecting the pilot to go a horror route, and it just didn't, like a child horror route. And I was a bit disappointed by that, because although I don't like horror, I like child horror, like kind of spookiness. Like, still a bit dark, but not super dark, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Is it because like there's this sense of kind of safety where like you know that that there are limits to what they can do?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I actually really liked how this show was darker, and I ended up feeling it would get darker throughout the season, and I'm really glad it did. I love the ending of this episode with it turning out that the pumpkin people are actually all dead, and I also love the line that one of the pumpkins says that you'll be joining us someday, alluding to the character's death. I just thought that was really fun.
And I think it's more impactful because like the reason that they're in this sort of world is because they like are having a near death experience.
Yeah, yeah. So there's this moment where Beatrice says something feels off about this place, and then we cut to the pumpkin people carving a pumpkin with a knife, and I just love the spookiness of it, and I just had to point that out.
Okay, the skeletons in the pumpkin costumes with their hollow eyes and painted red lips surrounding the children. Their leader Enoch towering over all of them in that dark barn. If I watched this as a kid, I would have definitely acquired a fear of pumpkins. And I'm so glad that I watched this as an adult because I know that sounds ridiculous, but there are genuine scenes in here where I'm like, if I was a kid and I watched that, like I would be afraid of certain things for a long time.
Episode 3. Our group of travelers meet a school teacher and raise funds for a school while they continue on their journey. I really enjoyed Beatrice's character development in the end of this episode. It feels like she was starting to enjoy her time with Wirt and Greg. I like how even though Beatrice did diss Wirt, Wirt was still a pushover at the end of the day because it's kind of like a slow development. I think I'm always going back and forth on whether or not I want like strong character development or like slow character development. And for this episode, I think I really actually enjoyed the slower character development. And I like how Beatrice at the end of the episode says, "Tie your shoes." And he's like, "Oh yeah." And he finally does it. And I just like how Beatrice ended up dissing Wirt because was she wrong? No, she was not. The teacher's random singing was something I did not enjoy, and now I can see why you hate musicals now. Because, I don't know, something about it. I was like, okay, anyways.
It is so funny you say that because I love that song. I absolutely loved that alphabet song, and I actually personally want a release of a full alphabet song of that sad lady talking about how no good her Jimmy Brown is. But the music in general, like the songs in general in this show, I actually liked.
See, here's the thing. I think the song is good. I just didn't like how it felt like it came out of nowhere, you know? I know with musicals, songs always come out of nowhere. But I don't know, this one just felt a bit too jarring for me.
I kind of liked it though. Because I think it's because it was a little too silly because it was just this human lady being like, man, my boyfriend kind of sucks. And she's singing it to like animal students. Like these are just little animals dressed up in kid outfits. And she's singing about how she's sad. So think about it. It was great. Yeah, getting called a pathetic pushover with no brain by a ladybird, some people would pay for that. Also, the teacher, there was something wrong with her arms. The proportions were incorrect, and like her upper arm was too long, and it just for some reason I kept focusing on that because it was a strange little thing that I noticed and I just couldn't stop. Marco, did you know of the potato and molasses song before watching this?
I didn't even know. Wait, like, was that a thing before this?
Well, no, but I never watched this show, but I definitely heard the potato and molasses song before I watched it.
No, I've never heard of this song before today.
That's crazy.
Where'd you even hear it?
I honestly think it was on like during commercials on Cartoon Network when they were advertising the show, and also probably just like on TikTok at some point. But yeah, I heard it before I watched this, and that was like the only that and like I feel like people always talked about how this was like related to like death and the what's it called when you're in between death and life?
See, now I was literally about to call it. I was literally just gonna say it's called the in between, but then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what it's called.
Stop. What's it called?
No, I know it. Come on, my brain is not working today.
That's not you fucking assholes. That's not what it's called.
What's it called?
The internet being like, oh, it's called the third state. Don't fucking play with me.
Not the third stage.
It's like when you're stuck. Oh my god.
I know what you're talking about. I know what the name is, but I can't like.
I do too.
Ugh.
Please just tell me the word internet. Stop. I have to figure it out now. I'm sorry. I have to figure it out now.
No, I completely understand. I searched up and it said purgatory. And I'm like,
Purgatory. Wait. It's purgatory.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, I fucking forgot what I was even talking about at this point. Oh no. The two things that I knew about this show what before we watched it was the potatoes and molasses song and how this was like some sort of representation for purgatory. And that's all I had to say. I spent minutes searching for that word.
We literally just spent so long in silence.
That's
just
kind of
trying to figure
embarrassing.
it out.
Fucking third state. I hate the fucking internet.
Episode 4. Our travelers go to a tavern with various people and are convinced that the woodsman is actually the beast. They also steal a horse by the end of the episode. I really love this episode because we got hints of some more plot things happening in the background. And I was totally expecting this episode to go in the more typical scary tavern route, and I'm honestly glad that it did not. I just feel like what we got was a bit more interesting.
That entire interaction between the tavern keeper and Beatrice, I wanted more of it. Like, they weren't just being mean, they were being brats, and I loved it. Also, the highwayman, his little dance and jingle, had to be one of my top 5 favorite scenes in this show. The strange fluidity of his movements just really scratched my brain. Also, Elijah Wood's song was such a strange way to inform the audience that him and Greg were half brothers. Okay, I thought I hated musicals, specifically musical episodes and musical shows, but I think this show has made me realize I just hate the genre of the songs in most musicals because I absolutely loved every song in the show and it had like a real old timey vibe to it, and I think that's the reason I liked it.
What specific genres do you not like in musicals? Because I'm curious now.
Whatever the fuck the modern ones are doing, that vibe, something about it, I don't like it.
Hmm. Episode 5. Our travelers lied to some man about being their relatives and help him realize that the ghost he thought he saw was actually a woman who lived in the same mansion as him and the whole time. Honestly, this episode was kind of convoluted. They leave and they also say goodbye to the horse. Okay, I don't like this episode, and I think it has to do with the romance in this episode. It honestly did not interest me at all, and I just want to move on from this episode as well because I did not find the side characters that we were introduced to in this episode to be interesting or compelling at all. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, that portrait of the lady made her look young, and the whole time I was like, this old man is attracted to this little ghost girl, which my fault for assuming. But also, she looked young in the photo, and I really feel like if they just added white streaks, like obvious white streaks to her hair and maybe like some wrinkle lines, then I wouldn't have believed that he was a predator.
To be honest, I was not paying that much attention to this episode because I just wasn't interested in it. But when we actually see her in person, I still thought she was a bit young. Like I was
She does look
genuinely thinking
young.
that. Yeah. So I was like, excuse me? Like what? Anyways.
There's definitely probably a 20-year age gap between both of them because the old man also keeps talking about like his will and how like he might die soon. So, a little suspicious. Maybe it's because old white men specifically age horribly, but I think he was a little too old for her.
Yeah, nasty. Disgusting. We do not approve.
We do not. I do like how the old man was trying to have a mental breakdown, but Greg was like, "Sir, we have no time. We have to find the ghost." And once again, it's just sort of that like strange ignorance he has coupled with his just like constant positivity that makes situations like these happen, and it's so funny.
Episode 6. Wirt, Greg, and Beatrice are on a ferry in order to go to Adelaide. It's revealed that Beatrice has been lying and that Adelaide wants to use the children for her own needs. But with Beatrice's help, they were able to defeat Adelaide. We're obviously mad at Beatrice, leaves with Greg, and we don't see Beatrice again for a while. So at first I thought that Beatrice was just saying that they should stay in the forest because she wanted to stay with Wirt and Greg, but it being revealed that the real reason is that she was originally planning on sacrificing them in order to gain her humanness back, but came to the conclusion that she didn't want to do that anymore, is honestly really good, especially considering how much Wirt and Beatrice have become close over the time they spent together. I just thought it was a really well done reveal.
I did not expect that gender comment from Elijah Woods. Like, so progressive from a spineless, brainless klutz, you know? I also did not expect Kitty, Wirt Jr., George Washington, Mr. President, Benjamin Franklin, Dr. Cucumber, Greg Jr., Skipper Ronald, Jason Funderburger to be the same voice as the narrator. That was pretty surprising. Also, this is the second episode where Elijah Woods makes assumptions about another character and leaving before getting the whole story, and it was starting to piss me off. And I know they did it for the drama and to intensify future events, but it made my brain angry because I just feel like that's a trope that we should stop using.
Okay, episode 7. Greg and Wirt meet a woman in a cottage who ends up trying to eat them. They free the woman from the curse using some magic bell, and they continue on their journey. I kind of saw the reveal that the person who we first met in this episode was the one who was actually trying to eat them, but I still think it was a good reveal. I don't know how I figured it out. I just did. I just thought she's suspicious. And I think what really gave that away for me was the weird romance she had with Wirt. I just didn't like it, and I was like, something's off here.
Okay, that lady was not Auntie Whispers. That was Zaniba from Spirited Away. Yeah, Elijah Woods sure did get over that first crush he had. Like, he kept talking about that one girl from his real life. I forgot her name. But, like, like straight up when he saw that other girl, he was like, oh my gosh, are we like, do we have something? Like, what a harlot. I did like how it was the girl who was the monster instead of Auntie Whispers. I did not see this coming. I genuinely didn't know where they were gonna go with this. Because I binge watched all of these and I was just sort of like watching it in the moment and not really assessing what might happen. But I just think it's so cliche to have the old lady be the villain in stories. I guess that happens more often in like older stories, like fairy tales and stuff. But I think it's really nice when it's like the young innocent white girl and not the old lady.
Episode 8. Greg has a dream where he frees a cloud kingdom from a storm cloud, and he makes a wish in exchange for saving the kingdom. When he wakes up, he leaves Wirt's side, and we can hear him talking to the beast, and Wirt wakes up going after Greg. So I was pretty confused on where this show is going after this episode, but I was really excited for how it was going to end, and I'm honestly glad how it ended that way because I think it's a really good way to end the show.
Okay, Elijah Woods was such an annoying kid in this. I did not at all appreciate not only his defeatist behavior, but also him just blaming his little brother. Like, I know he's frustrated with his little brother and like the choices he's been making, but I cannot, and I understand he's also a teenager, but I also can't imagine like having a little sibling and being like, okay, treating a little sibling in any way that he has treated his little brother in this throughout the whole series. And I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm like a better person than him, but it was embarrassing behavior.
I know you're a better person than him. I can say that. I don't. You don't know. You know that you're a better person than him. Come on, don't lie to
Yeah.
yourself.
And I mean, it's not like a hard bar to jump over because he really is like like a selfish asshole. But it just irritated me that he treats his little brother like that.
A sibling could do the bare minimum, and they would still be a better sibling than him. You know.
This is truth.
It's like how women will post on social media how like their boyfriend smiled at him today, and I'm like, girl, that's the bare minimum. Come on, stand up.
OMG, guys, my boyfriend talked to me today.
Yeah, exactly. Like what? What are you doing?
Also, the tone shift in this episode, I knew it had to happen at some point, but the end of this episode was like really surprising. I felt like we were gonna go a little bit slower into it, but they straight up like, here we are.
Episode 9. We get a flashback of what happened to Wirt and Greg before the first episode. Wirt wakes up and then goes to search for his brother. Honestly, I know this episode is trying to get us to feel for Wirt and show that he's grown as a character by the end of the season, but this only made me hate him more, and even if he was ever going to get redeemed, it would never make me like him. You know? That's all I have to say about this episode.
I was not expecting to find out that they were modern kids. So that was really surprising. The reveal of who Jason Funderburger was, the name matched a face. And that's all I'll say.
Can I just say, the way Wirt talked about him made me think completely different things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I'm glad that he was just like a normal person, I guess.
I mean, they also sort of alluded to the idea that Jason was a football player, and then he
Yeah.
was revealed to be. I'm gonna push back on him being quote unquote normal because I don't know. He was sort of pushing for a relationship with that one girl, and that kind of made me uncomfortable.
I don't remember what you're talking about, but I believe you.
He was trying to get with the girl that Elijah Woods liked, and there was a scene in the graveyard. I think it was episode 9 or 10. I don't remember, but like he like I don't know. He was like touching her hand or something, and she was like, "Okay, you don't have to do that." But like I don't know. He was trying to get closer to her in a way that I didn't like. So I would not say he was normal.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew. Episode 10. Wirt manages to save Greg, and it is revealed that the woodsman has been lighting his lantern using people who have been turned into trees to save his daughter. We also learned that the lantern never had his daughter inside it and instead was the beast the whole time. Wirt and Greg go home, and the woodsman blows out the lantern, and the beast is defeated. So, tell me why I genuinely got sad by the ending of this show. I don't know why. Because overall I was like, this show is decent, like it's good, but I don't love it because of mostly Wirt. However, by the end of this episode, I was like, holy shit, am I getting actually emotional? I don't know why.
Okay. The reveal of the truth behind the lantern, shocking. Did not expect it, but I also did not expect most twists in this show. I think it was just so well written, and I think this whole show made me appreciate child horror. Would you call this that?
Yeah, I think I would just call it like spooky. I don't know.
Okay.
Because it's not
Child spookiness.
I would axe out the child and just put spooky because I don't feel like this is really horror.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, I feel like when you're trying to create something scary for kids, there are hurdles you have to cross over because you can't just go straight to like gore and like rated R stuff that usually results in just like cheap stuff. You really have to sort of write these characters and write these situations in a way where like it truly is like messed up what's going on, but you're doing it in a way that's more approachable for kids.
Okay, I can. In that case, I can see you calling it child horror. I just feel like there has to be a better name for this, you know?
There probably is, but I don't know what it is.
Overall, I think this is a really good show. Y'all should watch it. Obviously, the weakest link is Wirt, and even though he did grow as a character, I can never forgive him for the way he treated Greg. Like, honestly, that was horrible. There's like even this one scene, I think in episode 9, where Wirt says, I was never better. I wasn't good to him alive either. And I was like, okay, I get it. But that doesn't, like, oh my god. He was trying to make up with Greg, but I feel like he was still having this defeatist personality, and it just was really frustrating.
Yeah, I feel like I think it's the fact that there was never a situation where we saw him trying to be better with his brother. He was always an asshole to his brother. So when he was like, I was never good to him when I was alive either, it doesn't make me feel sympathy or empathy for him because it's like it feels like he never even tried.
Yeah, you said it exactly. He never we never got to see him actually doing good to his brother. We never got to see him grow, and I feel like even though he was changing, like his personality was still the same, and I just wanted to see him change genuinely. But we didn't get to see that, and I mostly blame this on Cartoon Network because they made this show a limited run. Anyways, I think this show is still pretty good despite that.
I liked how it was a limited run. I think it fit well being a limited series.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just feel like I needed a little bit more time to see where it actually grow, you know?
Yeah, I'm fine with him not growing because I like hating men. When we reviewed this pilot, I asked you what the vibes were going to be for this show, and I was surprised when you didn't say you thought it was going to be about death because that's exactly why I avoided this show for so long. I'm honestly surprised you haven't watched this before. This sort of just felt like a show that you would watch. But yeah, I heard it was about death or like the afterlife, and immediately I was like, no, thank you. And this is about near death experience and the fear of death and loss, but it's subtle. It's about setting up allegories and letting the viewer unravel the meaning for themselves. And that was nice. Much more palatable than I thought it'd be. And I genuinely believe that this is just a show that everyone should watch. Because it's short. It is well written in my opinion. Yes, it has one debatably horrible character, but I also think that everybody else in the show really created an amazing story altogether.
Anyways, you guys, that's our thoughts on Over the Garden Wall. If you want to send us a voice message on Spotify for podcasters, there'll be a link in the description to do so below. I also have social media all in the description, and that's everything, so goodbye.
It's not everything. Hey guys, make sure you register to vote and vote if you're in the United States, but also everywhere else. Please make sure you vote. It's actually really important for your human rights to vote.
Anyways, that's everything for now, so goodbye.